When Honda launched the Civic in India back in 2006, the car was an instant hit. People loved it for that futuristic design, the comfort, the performance, the refinement. There was barely anything to complain about. But the sales of the car withered down thanks to the influx of similarly priced SUVs and also more updated versions of its competitors, which led to Honda pulling the plug on it eventually in 2011. But there's an all-new Civic on sale in India now, and it impresses us. It's bigger, it's better, and even more well-equipped. But we've been really curious to find out how it stacks up against competitors like the Skoda Octavia and the Toyota Corolla. So let's find that out. The last Civic sold in India looks striking, and the new one impresses even more. In fact, it sits lower than before and also has a more hunkered down stance as compared to the Octavia and Corolla both. But my favorite bit about it has to be that coupe-like rear end that makes it look so gorgeous. And in fact, if you see it on the road and assume it is a performance car, you would probably be forgiven. Of course, the Type R, which is the full-blown performance version of the Honda Civic, is the source of inspiration for this car's design, which explains its sporty looks. Be it the radical-looking front end with the distinct-looking LED headlights, the lines on the hood, the flared wheel arches, or the stunning-looking rear end, the Civic screams sportiness from every angle. In comparison, the Corolla and Octavia are a lot more traditional and are more old-school three-box saloons in that sense. Of the two, the Octavia looks slightly better being the newer car, while the current generation Corolla, which is at the end of its life cycle, tries hard to look fresh. It still has its own appeal, especially from the front, but in comparison, the Octavia's split headlamps and more muscular grille look more modern, especially since the LED daytime running lamps underline them. Here's how the three cars compare in terms of the design, and clearly, the Honda Civic is the best looking car of the lot thanks to its futuristic and path-breaking design. When it comes to the interiors, the Skoda Octavia is the most premium feeling car here, and that's particularly thanks to the choice of materials and the layout of the dashboard, the cabin overall. In fact, it feels so plush, you can compare the interiors of this car to ones that belong to a segment above it. Everything inside the Octavia feels as expensive as it looks, be it the dashboard, the glove box, the large glass panel for the touchscreen, or even the crisp display for the instrument cluster and steering wheel. There's a sense of occasion to the cabin which makes it feel more luxurious than the other two cars, and there's a more business class feel to the Octavia's interiors. The Honda Civic has the sportiest looking interiors here, especially with its all-black theme. What's more, the last generation Civic's instrument cluster was a special attraction for enthusiasts with its two-tier layout, and the new Civic betters it with its split displays. The cluster is almost gaming console-like and looks nice, just like the steering wheel, which feels nice to hold. The Civic's touchscreen is a disappointment though, as it does not feel as crisp or as premium as the Octavia's. On the other hand, the tall central storage tunnel is really nice, be it in terms of its design or the storage spaces it offers, including the lower tier that houses the HDMI and USB ports and also lets you place your phone right there. The Corolla is the oldest car in this comparison test, and of course, this generation of the Corolla is at the end of its life cycle, and it shows in terms of the interior design, the layout, as it does not feel as modern or as upmarket as the Octavia or the Civic. It does not even get a sunroof here. What's more, the plastic quality is not as premium either, which means that the Corolla loses out in this department. The Corolla's dashboard design looks a lot older than the other two cars, and so does its infotainment system. The screen looks smaller and its resolution is not very crisp either. In fact, the Corolla is the only car here to not offer Apple CarPlay or Android Auto connectivity. The plastics on the dashboard also don't feel as premium as the other two cars, though surface finishes are pretty good. That said, the Corolla's interiors certainly feel airy thanks to the part beige interiors. This is a segment where a lot of buyers prefer to be chauffeur-driven rather than drive themselves, which means that rear seat comfort and space are extremely important. And the Skoda Octavia is the most spacious car here, and that's despite its wheelbase being shorter than the Civic and the Corollas. The higher legroom and knee room help the Octavia score better in terms of backseat space, though the Civic's rear bench offers better support and comfort. The Civic loses out in terms of space at the rear though, and its all-black interiors don't help much either in offering a sense of spaciousness. The Corolla is a bit of a mixed bag in comparison, as it is not as spacious as the Octavia at the back, but its rear seat feels as comfortable as the Civic's, if not better. Of course, it's not without reason that the Corolla is a favorite with executive sedan buyers, and the car is known to offer excellent comfort, to the rear seat occupants. The Civic and Octavia have a clear edge over the Corolla when it comes to features, being the newer cars. And it's a pretty close battle between the two, as the Civic gets a few features which the Octavia does not, like the lane watch camera, though the Octavia does get parking sensors all round and semi-auto park assist, which the Civic does not. The Octavia also gets a powered front passenger seat and auto up and down function for all four windows, which neither the Civic nor the Corolla get. The Corolla thus falls back in terms of creature comforts, but it hits back in terms of safety, as it comes equipped with 8 airbags as standard, unlike the other two, which get 6 airbags as standard, and it's only the top two trims of the Civic and Octavia that get 8 airbags. For the first time, Honda is offering the Civic with the option of a diesel engine in India, but that's not what I'm driving. I'm driving the petrol version right now, which is powered by the same 1.8-litre 4-cylinder engine that powered the Civic years ago. But to be honest with you, the engine still feels very refined and its output of 141 PS is pretty good. But the engine is mated to a 7-step CVT, which is a letdown when it comes to putting the power down, especially in comparison to the Octavia's 7-speed DSG. The CVT zaps the engine power and does not let you accelerate quickly, even though the 1.8-litre naturally aspirated engine is quick to build revs. The Civic thus feels a little slow to take off from standstill, and thanks to the CVT's rubber band effect, the engine sounds stressed as you accelerate hard. Using the paddle shift levers behind the steering wheel helps, but the Civic is nowhere close to the Octavia when it comes to showing an urgency to accelerate quickly. That said, the engine does feel very smooth and refined as we have always known it to be, which is certainly likable. The engine also sounds good when revved hard, adding to the car's sporty feel. With 180 PS of power on offer from its 1.8-litre turbocharged petrol engine, the Skoda Octavia is significantly more powerful than the Civic and Corolla both. So when it comes to acceleration, this car is way quicker. Of course, that has a lot to do with its 7-speed dual-clutch direct-shift gearbox, which puts its power down a lot quicker than the CVTs in the other two cars, and the powertrain is definitely one big reason why the Octavia is known as a proper driver's car. The DSG offers lightning-quick responses when it comes to changing gears, be it in automatic mode or via the paddle shifters. The transmission is also far more intuitive as compared to the CVTs in the other two cars and works a lot more intelligently in choosing the right gear depending on your throttle inputs. Of course, the 1.8 TSI is a gem of an engine and is a great example of why we love turbocharged petrol engines so much. It misses the theatrics of the Civic or the Corolla's naturally aspirated engines revving to their red lines, but with the kind of thrust it offers throughout the rev range, the Octavia's engine turns out to be far more entertaining. In fact, the first couple of upshifts come with a mild jerk and you get pushed into the seat back slightly but very noticeably, which is addictive. Of course, numbers don't lie, and the Octavia accelerated from 0 to 100 km/h in just 8.6 seconds, which is nearly 3 seconds quicker than the other two cars. The Corolla's 1.8-litre engine is identical to the Civic's in terms of its outputs and offers 140 PS. And just like the Civic, it also uses a 7-step CVT, but the problem is that this gearbox again restricts the engine somewhat in putting its power down. The Corolla's engine feels sprightly as well and has a zing to it once you start driving hard. However, the Toyota is let down by its transmission, which is a 7-step CVT as well, just like the Honda Civic. Responses are better via the paddle shifters, but on the whole, despite its refinement and likable exhaust note, the Civic's powertrain is no match for the Octavia's. In fact, the Corolla feels very similar to the Civic in this department, especially since acceleration times for both cars are nearly identical at just over 11 seconds. The Skoda Octavia thus has the best engine and gearbox of the three cars here, and that said, the Civic and Corolla's engine have their own charm in terms of the overall feel and also how sporty they sound. However, the Octavia's engine definitely betters them both while also impressing with its fuel efficiency. The Skoda managed an impressive 13.4 kmpl overall in our test, which is just marginally lower than the Corolla's overall efficiency, but almost 2 kmpl more than the Honda Civic. I really like the new Civic for the kind of sporty handling it offers, which is courtesy the taut chassis and the firm suspension setup. Now add to that a steering that feels precise, is well connected and offers lots of feedback, and you have a car that's making you smile every time you chuck it hard into a corner. And of course, I think with this kind of handling, the new Civic feels more like a performance car rather than executive sedan. What's more, there's barely any body roll, which makes for an extremely confident feel, irrespective of the speeds you enter corners at. Now this behavior eggs you to go faster around corners, and every time you do, the Civic responds beautifully as the steering, chassis, suspension and tyres all feel extremely connected. Even more interesting is the fact that despite all its sportiness, the Civic does not trade off passenger comfort. Seats all around feel snug and hold you in place and are also very comfortable. The suspension offers a really good mix of comfort and handling and ensures the car stays composed over bumps and undulations, thereby keeping it planted and making for a comfortable ride, which gives the Civic an edge in this department. An excellent handler always, the Skoda Octavia feels as sporty as the Civic when it comes to handling, but it just has a little bit of body roll in comparison. But with that said, I do like the suspension setup in this car as it offers a lot of confidence, and add to that the precise steering, which makes it a lot of fun every time you turn into a corner. And apart from that, given the stronger engine performance, the drive out of corners is excellent as well, which makes this car all the more fun around fast bends. That said, Skoda has made the current Octavia's suspension setup more planned for Indian roads. So while the car pretty much glides over bad roads, the suspension setup robs you of some bit of confidence when turning into corners at high speeds. Once turned in, the car does settle down quickly and feels planted though. Steering responses are good too, but just a wee bit slower than the Civic. The Octavia also feels very planted at highway speeds, which makes it very comfortable for long drives. Overall, the Octavia is a confident handler and offers a plush ride quality, but somehow it just misses out on the sporty feel offered by the Civic. The Toyota Corolla also handles really well. It does not let you down around corners and also feels very planted on the highway thanks to its well-tuned chassis and suspension. But despite that precision, it somehow lacks the sportiness of the Civic and the Octavia and has more of a clinical feel in comparison. There's a likable feel to the Corolla's handling, but while it does the job, the Toyota does not feel as exciting as the Civic. It goes around corners confidently and offers a comfortable ride over bad roads, but it isn't as energetic in comparison. It also has a bit of body roll, apart from which the current generation Corolla's platform shows its age in the form of the road noise that creeps into the cabin at highway speeds. The Honda Civic again offers the best braking experience of the three, as it not only takes the least time to come to a full stop, but also covers the least amount of distance while feeling more sure-footed than the Octavia and Corolla both. Now it might be the oldest of the three cars here, but it is interesting to note that the Toyota Corolla is the best value for money proposition in this comparison test. All three cars here feel really good, and it's also interesting to note that the Civic, the Corolla and the Octavia are amongst the highest selling models for the respective manufacturers. The Corolla Altis is the preferred choice for a lot of executive sedan buyers even today, but it feels dated in the comparison of the new Civic and the Octavia. On the other hand, the new Civic has racked up over 2,500 bookings in just about a month's time since its launch, which speaks a lot about its cult status and also tells you how good the new Civic is. But as for the winner of this comparison test, it has to be the Skoda Octavia. It is the most expensive car here, but it is also the best package overall, and we do know that Skoda has been working aggressively towards reducing ownership costs. Now in terms of packaging, the Civic comes close, but the Octavia betters it. It feels more premium, has more space and more comfort at the rear, and of course has the best powertrain, which also makes it a lot of fun to drive.